Have you ever studied a map, recognised its major continents, and then found your gaze drifting out across wide oceans to those tiny specks with mysterious names you've never heard? In this programme, we shall seek out these isolated worlds and meet those communities who live their lives on this planet's unknown islands.
Off the west coast of Scotland lie the Hebridean Islands. Perhaps the most unusual is the 5-mile-long Isle of Canna. There have been settlers here for nearly 9,000 years. However, one of the most curious periods in the island's history occurred far more recently. In the 1930s, Scottish historian and folklorist John Lorne Campbell had fallen in love with the Hebrides and made them his home. It was his dream to establish a utopian island community, and in 1938 he bought Canna and set about realising this vision. He remained its laird for 43 years.
So when Campbell donated the island to the people of Scotland via the National Trust in '81, it was a population of around 20. Now in the intervening 30 years that's dropped as low as 7 at one stage, and there were fears that the community would disappear altogether.
Campbell was particularly keen to honour the ancestral rights of the McKinnon family, who have lived here for nearly 300 years. There are 3 surviving members on the island today, a mother and 2 daughters. We met the youngest daughter, Winnie.
Winnie, how long have you lived here then?
I've been here since 1962.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Right, so that was during the time when Lorne Campbell had the island,
That's
didn't
right.
he? And that was his decision to leave it to the Trust, wasn't it?
It was.
Do you ever yearn to be somewhere with more people? Or is
No,
that...
not at all.
Not at all?
No.
Dougie is part of a small team renovating a 300-year-old crofter's cottage.
Are you just working here then, or do you live here?
No,
Yeah.
I'm just working.
Right.
I kind of travel about, I suppose, doing this type of work. After a while I've been here, you forget how unusual it must seem to
I suppose so.
someone from the mainland.
Yeah.
And
No, sure, and I suppose
They're
people like me
dealing
come and
with
ask the same questions over and over again. Like they were saying on the boat, please don't ask us how we do our shopping. We don't want to answer questions about how we do our bleeding shopping.
Yeah.
Overseeing the work is elder McKinnon daughter Jerry and her husband Murdo.
I mean, I came from the mainland and they called me a townie.
Right.
And I was told by all my mates and all my friends and all the workmen, you'll never stick it out there. It's not enough for you to do, you'll never manage.
Yeah.
Well, that's 15 years ago. I'm still here and I'll still be here for another 15.
Now the sun is starting to dip towards the horizon, you get a real sense of something here now, which is that the evening is coming and there's nothing else which is going to happen today. And that's not something you'd feel on a coastal town, for instance, where there would be a pub, there'd be a restaurant, there'd be people coming and going, a city nearby. Here, you know that's it.
The more I spoke to Canna's non-Indigenous residents, the more I became aware of an undercurrent of ill feeling.
I'm Ben, pleased to meet you. Hi.
One of the big issues for Canna is the issue of tenure,
Right.
housing. Obviously the house I have comes with the job.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as the job finishes, no house, therefore we have to leave. And myself, my wife and others on the island would actually like to invest in the island,
Yeah.
but we're not really allowed to.
I brought up this subject with Sheila, who moved here 4 years ago and now runs the island's one guest house.
I think everybody's had enough, really, basically. We're all sort of... It's this, what do you call it, a tied house to the job,
Yeah.
which is absolutely crazy. That went out in the dark ages, did it not?
Yeah.
So unless they change, the National Trust change their attitude about that, I think all of us will go. All of us are important here, not just the McKinnon family. It's like one family have ruled the roost for so long.
Yeah. But what would they be clinging to as well?
The history of the place, or the fact that some of them have never been away from here, so they're feeling very precious about it. I feel quite strongly about that. I think that if people are giving life and work and family, bringing up their children here, we're all native, we're all wanting to do something for this island. But I think the Indigenous people of this island do appreciate that they can't live here without our help.
Yeah.
And the incomers, I hate that word, you know what I'm trying to say, people who come in to live in the island. But I still think the rest of us need that identity and need that, what's the word, respect maybe?
And the National Trust and Stuart, who runs this island, are clinging to a feudal sense of an ancient family's right to live here. And I think they've been slightly brainwashed Stuarts and the indigenous islanders into thinking that there is something very important about that. It must be very difficult indeed. I can really appreciate that.
There is that stereotypical thing of this is our island, especially because of Winnie's mum, who hasn't spoken to us at all
and won't come out, won't even speak to the incomers either.
Exactly.
This idealistic man who was fascinated by the past, completely steeped in the past, who then created this island. And yeah, you do think of Jurassic Park. Well, neither Duncan nor myself are sociological experts, but I've come away realising one thing. We've discovered that each island is totally unique unto itself because of the people who live there and what they've been through and what they give to each community. And that can only make me want to explore a lot more.
3 times a year, a military supply plane makes a 1,000-kilometre trip into the Arctic Circle from the north coast of Norway. Its destination is the ice-bound island of Jan Mayen, where it unloads provisions for its tiny community. The conditions are always treacherous, and the aircraft has just 5 hours in which to unload its vital cargo and make its return.
This Arctic waste of Jan Mayen is home to a population of 18 people who work at the meteorological station here, which is one of the most important in the world. So the air is so charged up there between those two...
No, it's like a magnetic field, and
right.
it makes a pulse.
Find life here very nice. But you get a little bit, maybe a little bit.
So it looks like what's going on is they're waiting for what only needs to be a 10-minute drop in the incredibly high wind speed for the Hercules to take off. This is apparently what a drop in the wind speed feels like.
Well, the news is that we didn't make it off the runway. The wind got worse and worse and worse. A terrible storm is blowing in tomorrow. So we've no idea when we're going to leave Jan Mayen. Having done all these pieces to camera earlier today about how I never want to leave because it's just so wonderful to be here, now I'm actually stuck here. I feel quite strange about it. I wonder what's going to happen to us.
You're an asshole. I told you not to film after 9.
The feeling you get from opening a map, finding a spot on it you know nothing about, making the arrangements, going there, and then finding yourself somewhere like this is something that's hard to convey. All I can say is that it's been an absolute privilege to be here.